tired of the citizens of Raleigh being harassed by armed militia.
They have the right to speak against me. I have the right to say what I'm saying.
Through the course of the coronavirus, we've heard a lot of constitutional rights, including freedom of speech, religion, and the right to bear arms.
But it's really not that easy. Parts of the Constitution are not absolute. In tonight's Local Original, we answer why. The quiet air of closed schools and businesses and the noise of streets packed with angry voters is as stark of a contrast as the various interpretations of the U.S. Constitution.
Well, we need the old 1776 normal that the Founding Fathers envisioned for us, and anything else is just tyranny.
But when it comes to civil liberties named in America's most precious document, it is not that cut and dry.
So I think when people scream that everything they do should be justified by the First Amendment or the Second Amendment, that's not really an accurate interpretation of either what the founders intended or what public officials need to keep in mind as they keep the business of the public going.
Remember that old adage you learned as a kid? Freedom of speech does not mean you can scream fire in a theater. There are rules. Speech can't be used to slander or incite violence or plagiarize.
And they're willing to vote that way.
Protest inside the General Assembly can only occur at certain times, and if they're on the street, they need a permit. And federal, state, and local governments can make their own laws when it comes to the Second Amendment.
In this particular case, in North Carolina, we have in state law that restricts people from bringing handguns to protest, as well as funerals and other things. And that has been upheld a number of times. And so even though people see the right to possess firearms and carry firearms as an absolute, it's far from that.
Often, it's up to the courts to make the interpretation. That's exactly what happened when a U.S. District Court judge recently said Governor Cooper's executive order violates freedom of religion, temporarily clearing the way for churches to reopen. Political science professor David McClennan hedges his bets on the highest court in the land, hearing a lot of similar arguments. After all, that's what the Supreme Court is there for.
Those 9 justices will ultimately be asked their opinion on a number of these cases.
I think that's a fair bet. Well, as time passes, just how far will the argument for public safety go? Another potential court battle, hair salons. Some establishments now discussing going to court as well, as they have not yet been allowed to reopen. So if you have an idea that you think would make a good local original story, send me an email. I'd like to hear from you. rbowen@cbs17.com.